Leipzig main railway station, where I arrived with a Polish intercity train that I took from Przemysl. This is Europe's largest railway station in terms of ground space. From here on, we'll be traveling on board of a German double-deck intercity to Dortmund in the west of Germany. Even though you will find less and less intercity services in Germany because most of them are being replaced by intercity express trains, you still find them. Join me from beautiful Leipzig main railway station where I'm at right now, on board of a German intercity to Dortmund, on probably what is going to be the hottest day ever measured in human history. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? For now, let's get this video on the track and let's roll the intro. The day before I arrived in Leipzig, Germany by Eurocity train I took from Przemysl in Poland, close to the Ukrainian border. This train went via Krakow, Katowice and Wrocław to Leipzig. In terms of international trains from and to here, it's quite disappointing to be honest. One sleeper train / night intercity between Zurich and Prague, and then you find 2 Eurocity trains to Poland, and one of which I took. Anyway, let's focus on the railway station. At the front of the railway station you do find a tram stop. Due to the extreme weather at the moment I left here, the trams were not running anymore. And this railway station itself, it's huge. You find basically 2 kind of main entrances. One is the west entrance and one is the, well, let me surprise you, the east one. And in terms of ground space, this is Europe's largest railway station. In terms of passenger volume, it doesn't get even close to the top 10 of European railway stations, but well, I'll explain you a little bit more during this video why. And because this is so huge and because it's quite beautiful, I can't do this railway station truly justice. Let me tell you this already in advance, but I've tried to do my best. There is an underground passage as well, as you can see over here, that is linking to the square in the front of the railway station, and this is also linking with the S-Bahn, so this is the commuter rail of Leipzig. And because this is such a huge station, you also find an awful lot of shops over here. I mean, railway stations having shops is nothing new to be honest, but this here is more like a shopping mall than a railway station. Anyway, somewhere in the shopping mall you also find this miniature train. Yeah, we're not taking this one today. Well, I'm not gonna dig too much into the shopping center area. However, something I really truly believe in, that if you spend money in and around railway stations, you also keep this alive and you also provide social security, even though if it would be for commercial reasons. And this is why I personally like to spend my money at shops within or around railway stations, just to keep these places alive. And if it's also a really nice and pleasant area to spend your money in, like over here, well, I think you have a win-win situation. Anyway, I was looking for some railway related services and basically the ticket counter of DB, what is the state-owned railway company of Germany and where we also be traveling on today. And that is a little bit hidden within the shopping area. It's located right over here. It's basically within the area that if you move via the underground section to the front of the railway station, so to the square at the front, well, you get out more or less here. Some vending machines for tickets are located right next to this as well, but especially if you're traveling with long distance trains within Germany, I strongly recommend you to buy your tickets more in advance. I will tell you a little bit more about tickets later on in this video. Anyway, let's move to the entrance of the S-Bahn, so this is basically the commuter rail of Leipzig. These are kind of regional trains, but within the city center these trains do run very frequent. Basically, it's kind of like between a metro and a regional train in some ways. And also, the way they integrated these trains within the railway station itself is just really cool actually. Leipzig used to be 100% a terminal railway station. However, for these regional trains that doesn't work obviously, so they made these regional trains underground, and for these S-Bahn trains, this is a through station now. I think technically other long distance trains should be able to run on these tracks as well, but I don't know that. If you know this, please let me know in the comments. However, what is actually really cool is that the location of these tracks is at the same spot as where the old terminal tracks used to be. Let me show you around. However, before we do that, at the front of the railway station, like I already mentioned, you also find the entrance to the underground section of this railway station, including this entrance I just took to the S-Bahn platforms. However, the prettiest part of the S-Bahn platforms is in the main concourse of this railway station. That is, if you take this entrance over here. This used to be the area where there used to be railway tracks, and now they made this all underground, so you have a lot of space within the railway station itself. As a matter of fact, when it comes to space within this railway station, I like it, don't get me wrong, but basically this railway station is way too big for the capacity it can handle. On the lists I looked up recently, it's the 21st busiest railway station in all of Germany. That doesn't mean that this is a small railway station at all, don't get me wrong. But I wouldn't categorize this as a busy railway station. The passenger volume is only a little bit less than around 50 million passengers per year. Basically, when this railway station was built, it was about to replace several smaller railway stations in the city of Leipzig. Also, the population growth at the moment this railway station was built was booming at Leipzig. So basically they anticipated this. And I really like the fact that there will be some anticipation on growing passenger volumes. But in terms of a central location within Europe and being a mega hub, especially on a European level, Leipzig is just not. Also, its location at the moment this railway station was built, pretty central in the German Empire, made this, well, quite an interesting hub for trains all over the German Empire. So yeah, this railway station was built with a lot more capacity in mind, and they did a pretty good job. This here is a bookshop, by the way, located at the front, so basically at the side here on the left from where I'm walking right now. And because this railway station building is actually way bigger than it needs to be, some parts were being used for some, well, old trains, so it's a kind of a railway museum over here as well, at the tracks that do have the higher track numbers. They even gave up some tracks for a parking garage for cars, as you can see here on the right. I mean, it's pretty central located, to be honest, I can't deny that, but personally I'm really a public transport person. But I can imagine that if you live in a small countryside town, then the car might be a better way to go from or to the railway station. Even though in that situation I would rather expect that you go to a smaller railway station by car and park your car there and take a regional train to the big city from there on. Anyway, the old trains, the kind of the railway museum, it's nice, but I'm into trains, but not into these kind of trains. I'm more into trains because of sustainability reasons. However, a fact is about this railway station, it is really spacious and not too crowded, at least not at the moment when I was here, but is actually really nice. I mean, for example, Hamburg Hauptbahnhof railway station, what is also in Germany, is one of my least favorite railway stations because it's actually way too crowded. And Leipzig Hauptbahnhof is definitely on my list of one of my favorite railway stations. Not because of the great connections, no, purely because of the architecture and all the facilities. And yes, I know I haven't featured enough of this railway station, I think that's nearly impossible and I didn't have the time for that either. For now it's time to move slowly towards our train. Information about departing trains will be given at several screens throughout the railway station. Some screens are a little bit smaller and are located near the escalators from the underground shopping mall, and then you find these bigger screens at the escalators at the main concourse. Because of the layout of this railway station, once again a terminal railway station, it's pretty easy to find the railroad tracks. But information has been given in general pretty good. You also find these interactive screens, as you can see here, that will tell you what facilities are located where. Apart from the train where I arrived with the day before, you will not find that many international trains. There's one combined sleeper and night intercity train between Zurich in Switzerland and Prague in the Czech Republic, and then you find the Eurocity trains that I also took the day before from Poland, which are only 2 per day. So the total number reaches, well, 4 per day. But basically one train goes into 2 directions, so if you look at the line numbers, only 3 international railway lines do call here, of which 2 have Leipzig as a terminal station, or starting station, just how you look at it. And like pretty often in Germany, None of these trains does have the German rolling stock. They all use the rolling stock of the other countries, so Czech or Polish trains in this situation. Anyway, for now, let's move on to our train, what is a German domestic intercity train, and it has been listed already at the departure screens. You also find a small composition screen over here. And yes, I know Leipzig main railway station really deserves more time in my videos, but I had limited time and it was kind of in an extreme heat wave when I recorded this video. But I think I will be back around here one day to record maybe a little bit more on another route. So Leipzig main railway station. I think it's freaking awesome. It's a beautiful railway station. I could have spent more time there, and actually I should have, but I didn't have this time. What are your favorite railway stations? Let me know in the comments, or maybe I can feature them in one of my future videos. And also, I'm curious, where do you watch this video from? Let me know in the comments as well. Anyway, enough of the railway station. Right now we move on to the train, but before we do that, I hope you like this video so far, or that it's a helpful video to you. If so, please give me a thumbs up. If you have some questions, feedback, comments, even if you want to say hello. But also, if you want to let me know where you're watching this video from, leave a comment. And at last, if you'd like to see more trip reports about more sustainable ways of transportation, the main focus for this channel is long distance and or international traveling, then hit that subscribe button if you haven't done this already. For now, let's continue with this video. And let's start by taking a close look on today's route. Our train started in Dresden, from where on it made some stops along the way before going to Leipzig, from where on I joined the train. From Leipzig on we moved towards Hannover, and from Hannover we moved to the Ruhr area in Germany. For the journey I've made, Dortmund, where I also left the train, was the final destination. However, when I looked up the timetable for this train on other dates, I also noticed that quite some trains do move on after Dortmund. Some of them going to Stuttgart, and I also saw Mannheim in some situations. Basically, taking the train for the entire journey in that situation doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Also, for me it was slightly faster if I would change in Hannover to a faster Intercity Express train. However, then I would only have 8 minutes to change trains. With German trains being not the most punctual one, I don't think this is a good advice. If you can take a direct train, especially for such small differences in the total travel time, just take a direct train. From Dresden on, the total travel time is around 6.5 hours and the length of the journey is around 623 kilometers. So the average speed is a little bit less than 100 kilometers per hour, what is definitely not the fastest train. Now let's also take a closer look on the environmental impact if you're traveling along this route by train, car or plane, and it's a pity that buses are not included, because in Germany you do find a pretty good long distance bus network as well. Anyway, let's take a close look on the environmental impact for now. If you make the same journey by train or plane, the train only has a pollution of 5.34% compared to making the same journey by plane. However, if you take the train as a standard, taking the plane along the same route is 1,872.31% more polluting than taking the train along the same route. I'm just saying, changing the behavior is the easiest things we can do. And yes, I know German trains do not have a good reputation, and I fully understand if people choose other modes of transportation within Germany. But still, if you look at the total travel time, the prices and especially environmental impact, I think the train is still a pretty good and reasonable option. And how my journey went, with temperatures skyrocketing to 40 degrees Celsius in an extreme heat wave? Well, I will show you now. Before we board our train, let's take a closer look on the exterior of the train. We'll be traveling aboard of a German Intercity train, and this is a double-deck train. Basically, more and more regular intercity routes within Germany are being replaced by Intercity Express trains, and the routes where you do still find intercity trains, at least for the domestic routes, you will mainly find these double-deck intercity trains. And they're pretty comfortable, to be honest. However, something I am really missing on board of these trains is a dining car. I mean, these are still long-distance trains after all. Anyway, at the front and at special screens at the side of the train, you will find the train number, the final destination and the carriage numbers. Apart from that, at the side right next to the entrance doors, you will find the classes, the carriage number and what seat numbers can be entered best if you take those specific entrance doors. Also, the seat numbers have been mentioned at the upper and the lower part, so basically for the upper and the lower deck. This train comes in two different comfort categories, first and second class. Facilities, like for example the bike area, have been marked at the side as well. It is possible to make a seat reservation for these trains, but it's not obligated. The first class is located at the very end of the train, in carriage number 5. Somehow I think it would make a lot of sense if first class will be in carriage number 1. These are locomotive hauled trains, and our train is being pulled or pushed, depending on what way the train is moving, by a Bombardier trucks locomotive. And something I only noticed now, but it is pretty common for terminal railway stations, is that you will find halfway the platform an underground passage to move to other platforms as well, if you need to change trains fast and you don't want to move to the other side of the platform. Anyway, our train was being pulled by a trucks locomotive, and for now it's about time to head on board of our train for today. As you maybe already noticed when I walked along the train, it was kind of busy. So I couldn't film the interior of the train at the beginning of the journey, but I did it eventually. For this journey I am traveling in first class, what's way easier to film. And my seat for today is seat 105 at the upper deck in car 5. The first class wasn't too busy though. What's another reason to choose a first class for me if I'm making these videos. Anyway, we were leaving Leipzig with a small delay of around 5 minutes. And it won't take long before we serve our first stop after Leipzig, what is Bitterfeld. Bitterfeld is not a big town. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't even call it a city. It has a population of around 15,000 people, what's not a lot. However, this is a rather important junction railway station, and this is probably why this intercity train calls here. After Bitterfeld, our train makes its way through the former eastern part of Germany to Hannover, where the train makes a longer stop. These trains do have an allowed top speed of 160 km per hour, and they will also go along this top speed for some sections of the journey. Wow, we are already in the journey for a while. I haven't shown you the interior yet. Well, second class was rather busy for the first section of the journey, so I will show you that later on in the video. So let's start off with first class, where I was also traveling on, and first class is located in carriage number 5. You do find a combination of airline style seats and bay seats, so facing each other. In that situation there's a bigger table in between you can fold out. You do find a quiet area as well in a section of the upper deck in first class. These are long distance trains, however double deck trains are in general not very well known for having a lot of space in the overhead luggage racks. However, you do find dedicated luggage racks all over the train, so in that sense you are able to take enough luggage with you. At the moment you move through the train, right next to the staircases, the carriage number and also what seats or where have been marked as well. But also on my reservation it has been clearly marked that my seat was at the upper deck. The luggage racks, once again you find a lot of them on board with these trains, and don't expect too much from the overhead luggage racks. First class has been mentioned extra well at several spots within the train, for example on the headrests, but also at the outside of the train, and at the moment you move through the train you basically can't miss it as well that you enter the first class. These trains do have a total capacity of 468 seats, of which 70 are in first class, and you also find 6 folding seats. Of course, there are some standing places as well, but especially along a longer railway journey, I strongly recommend you to reserve a seat if possible. Most seats do come in an airline style composition, and personally, I like this most. Seat numbers are located at the side of the seat, and apart from that, and the luggage racks integrated, you do find a small display as well, that will host the seat number and also from where to where a seat has been reserved. Once again, this is my seat for this journey. The amount of legroom is very reasonable, I have to say. Seats can be reclined with a handle that's located right under your seat. Even though the reclinement is not that much, it's actually pretty comfortable. For the airline style seats, there's a small footrest that I personally never use because I'm a rather tall person. You do find a fold-out table in the seat in front of you, you can fold out, and there's a laptop holder as well. There's a cup holder, and at the upper deck you do find sunscreens as well at the windows. What is ideal on a hot day like today, even though I have to say the air conditioning kept up pretty well. Power sockets are located at the side. Even though there's no dining car on board of this train, drinks and light snacks are available. Basically, someone will walk through the train and ask every now and then if you want something to drink or, well, some snacks to order. The pantry where this will be served from is located in the carriage where you will find the first class. At the end of the first class closest to the second class. And at a certain moment during this journey, they were just announcing that if you want to have some snacks and drinks, you can also just go there. Here our train is arriving at the railway station of Magdeburg. When Germany was still east and west, this would have been the last station in the east of Germany, even though you didn't find through trains back then, and now you can just go from east to west like it's the most normal thing on earth. Even though Germany is one country, still today you do find quite some differences between the former east and the former west of Germany, mainly economically, but also politically. Well, I don't want to dig too much into politics because this will also create a lot of hate comments. I know how this works, actually that's good for the algorithm as well, but I really don't like fascism. That's the best way how I can describe it. And what is happening in the east is looking pretty much like this. And what I personally really don't understand is that some political parties who are really anti-migration, for example, are also really conservative in terms of, well, renewable energy resources and sustainability. I don't understand why, because statistically most refugees nowadays are climate-related refugees. So if you want to stop refugees, maybe you should start working about fixing the environment and focus on sustainability. And yes, I know by saying this I will trigger a lot of people who have different opinions. However, I like to stick with facts. And actually, hate comments are also good to trigger the algorithm. The first city where the train calls in the former western part of Germany is Braunschweig. Actually, I haven't been here though, even though I did a part of my bachelor study in the German state of Niedersachsen, so Lower Saxony, and I was able to travel to here with my public transport card for students. I never did it, I don't know why actually. Here our train is arriving at the railway station of Hannover. This is a quite important railway junction, especially when it comes to people traveling north, south and east and west. I changed many times at this railway station actually, but somehow it never been featured in one of my trip reports. I should do this in the future. Our train has a scheduled stop of 17 minutes over here. However, we had a small delay, so the stop was eventually only 5 minutes. However, we left Hannover without any delay. our train is arriving at the railway station of Bielefeld with a delay of about 1 minute. What is basically no delay in my opinion. Bielefeld is known for the Bielefeld complot theory. I mean, you can look it up on Wikipedia. Actually, it's quite funny. From Bielefeld you also find a very regional train to the Netherlands. I made a trip report about this about 5 years ago or so. You can find it in the description of this video, and in that video I also feature Bielefeld railway station. Ham is the station before we arrive at our terminal station for today, what is Dortmund. From here on you also find local trains to the Netherlands though. Actually it's the train opposite from here. I made a trip report on that train as well, and I also featured this railway station in the past. You can find a video where I featured that in the description of this video as well. However, I haven't showed you anything of the second class yet, and from this moment on the second class was pretty quiet, so let me show you the second class, and statistically if you travel on board of this train you will be traveling on there as well. And I have to say, the second class product on board of this train, it's a good product, I like it. For me it was mainly that the price difference with first class was not that big, and also, well, it's just easier to film in first class. If there are trains with solo seats in second class, I probably would take that. Second class comes like you can expect in European trains in a 2x2 configuration, so 2 seats on both sides of the aisle. Just like in first class, the seat numbers are located at the side of the seats and above the seats. At the very tiny luggage racks you'll find the seat numbers as well, including a display that will indicate from where to where a seat has been reserved. At the moment people don't show up, the display will just go off and everybody can take the seat. Since trains in Germany do not come automatically including a seat reservation, well, blocking seats like this just doesn't work. If a seat is available, everybody can take it. Luggage racks are located at several spots within the open compartments, at the end but also in the middle. And you also find quite a lot of screens that will host route information. Once again, the luggage racks above the seats are very tiny, but that's basically always the case in double-deck trains. You can take your bikes as well on board of these trains, however for bikes a reservation is obligated though. You find several bike spots at the vestibules. And over here I also noticed something like a kind of menu for the mini dining car or dining service, I don't know how I want to mention it. Sometimes if I mention it's a dining car people get upset, they call it a bistro or well whatever, food and drinks on board of the train. You get it. Toilets are located at the vestibules as well, I'll get back to that in a bit. I haven't shown you properly in first class, but you do find litter bins near the seats as well. Apart from that, at the vestibules you find some more litter bins and also some places where you can recycle your waste. This way traveling by train is even more sustainable. The lower deck is slightly more spacious than the upper deck on board of these trains. You do find the same layout though. However, I feel like, well, because of the shape of the train, it's just a bit more spacious. Just like in first class, most seats in second class do come in an airline style or long distance bus seat composition, but you find some seats facing each other as well with a bigger table in between. In second class you cannot fold these tables out to make them slightly bigger. A handle to recline the seats is located right under the seats. Even though these trains are already in service since a little more than 10 years, these are modern trains with lots of screens with information about the route. And free Wi-Fi is also available on board of these trains. I really like the overall comfort level of these trains, and even though these are double-deck trains for luggage you do find enough space to store it. I mean, these are long distance trains after all. The carriages 2, 3 and 4 are basically all the same. All second class carriages with basically the same layout. However, carriage number 1 in second class is slightly different. Carriage number 1 is also where you find the control car, so at the moment the train is moving at this side at the front, The train driver will be here as well. You also find this little area over here, what is for the train manager. But if we go up over here, well, these seats, I don't really like them, but if we move on a little bit, we get out in the special toddler zone. Well, over here, there's just a little bit more space, and for toddlers, just a little bit more space to move around. You find some board games as well on the tables between the seats, and there are some kind of board games as well over here for kids to play with. I mean, traveling by train is already in general a lot of fun for kids, but this way you even make it more fun. My kid isn't a toddler yet, but I think, well, he might really like this. And I'm thinking about making a video in the future about traveling by train with kids. Would you like to see that? Let me know in the comments so I can focus on this and, well, make a comparison for different trains. Right next to the toddler area, you find the so-called family area, with some more board games on the tables. Maybe a little bit more challenging, I don't know, but let it be no surprise that this is absolutely not a silent zone. Pretty often in European trains, the kids or family areas and the area for disabled passengers are pretty close to each other. Well, this is a double-deck train, so it doesn't make a lot of sense to have the accessible area, so for passengers traveling in a wheelchair, at the upper deck. Instead of that, you will find this at the lower deck. Basically, carriage number 1 has, well, per square meter, less seats for passengers. Also, the luggage racks within this area of the train are smaller than in the rest of the train. At the lower deck, you will find the accessible area. Over here, well, there's just a lot more space for people traveling in a wheelchair. And while I say already in many videos, actually basically since I started this channel, and I truly believe that traveling by train should be easy for everybody, no matter if you're in a wheelchair or not. Let it be no surprise that next to the accessible area you will also find the bigger accessible toilet. And since the family and toddler area is right above us, you also can change the diaper of a baby over here. So it's a 2-in-1 combination. I mean, this toilet is pretty fine, really nothing worth mentioning. Most importantly, during my trip it was clean. However, you will only find one of these kinds of toilets, and there are much more, well, regular smaller toilets. I'll show you them in a bit. Also, at the lower deck you do find quite some more spots to park your bike. But once again, if you're traveling with a bike on board of these trains, a reservation is obligated. Free Wi-Fi is available on board of these trains. This doesn't just link your mobile device to the internet, but you also find an onboard entertainment system. The entertainment system does not work if you're using a VPN though. And something I haven't mentioned yet, for first class you do find a reading light as well within the luggage racks, but personally I actually never use it. For the airline style seats in second class, the amount of legroom is pretty reasonable, and I have to add up to this, I'm rather tall. You do find, just like in first class, a small footrest, what I personally almost never use, a very small, well, bag for literature bag, and there's a tray table in the seat in front of you can fold out. A small litter bin is located at the side. The tables do have more or less the same size as the tables in first class. And there's also a kind of laptop holder, because if you have a bigger laptop, it definitely doesn't work on board of these trains with these tables. Overall, I like these trains, even though there's no dining car, but they compensated this in another way. And what I haven't showed you yet are the regular toilets you find a lot aboard of these trains. Basically, between all the carriages at the vestibules. I mean, these toilets are pretty okay. They're way smaller than the accessible toilet and also the toilet you can use as a diaper changing facility, but they're still good enough for the job they need to serve for. About train tickets. In general, in many places within Europe, Trainline is my favorite website to book train tickets. You can also do that for these trains. I do have an affiliate link in the description of this video. However, to be honest, for trains within Germany, the website of Deutsche Bahn, so DB, is basically the best one. I'll also make sure that there's a link to that website in the description of this video. Basically, that website is so extremely good. It gives you so many options on what kind of trains you want, where you want to have a certain stopover and for how long, that basically this can be a whole video on its own how to book cheaper train tickets. For this journey, I've booked a ticket from Przemysl in Poland, close to the Ukrainian border, to The Hague in the Netherlands in first class for as little as €114. This included a seat reservation that was not for free on board this train. These ticket prices are based on demand, and in my situation, if I booked my train ticket from Poland to the last station in Germany, it was pricier than booking it to The Hague in the Netherlands where I live, because it's a different kind of demand. Even though in most situations it will be cheaper to book it to the last station in Germany. But basically the website of DB gives so many options, for 99% of the people it's basically too much and they don't even use it. But for this ticket I had a layover in my ticket in Leipzig of 15 hours. Yeah, you also get these layover options. So here we are at Dortmund Hauptbahnhof, Dortmund main station. The train only had a 6-minute delay, what is very little, and especially considering the circumstances where we are traveling on with extreme heat. I hope you liked this video. I liked this journey, and Leipzig main station is absolutely stunning. I'm happy to have seen that as well. From Dortmund on, I will travel on board of a regional train to the Netherlands, to Enschede to be exactly, and from there on I'll take a train back home to The Hague. Anyway, I hope you liked this or this has been a helpful video to you. If so, please give me a thumbs up. If you want to say hello, have some feedback, comments, even once again, if you want to let me know where you're watching this video from, leave a comment. And at last, if you'd like to see more trip reports about more sustainable ways of transportation, the main focus for this channel is long distance and or international traveling. Oh, this is definitely a long distance train, and the next train that I'll be taking from here is a very regional train, but that's an international train, so both trains tick the boxes. But if you'd like to see more, then hit that subscribe button if you haven't done this already. Before we really end up this video, one very last thing. Well, I also think the train kept pretty well in the extreme heat due to the white color, what basically kept the sun away. Anyway, I hope you liked this video and or this has been helpful to you. Related videos can be found in the description of this video, where you also find related links for this video, including a link to a map where you find all videos as well, but then on a map.